Again, it's kind of new for all of us. We took 20 people on. And so we'll do our best to make this as easy and fluid as possible. Tom, all here?
We're all set, so we just forward.
So do we want the library to start first, or?
Yep, that's fine.
Laura? You can take it away, Laura. Let me just unmute you here. It won't let me, but you can unmute yourself, Laura, and take it away.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Grand. Well, first of all, I really miss our regular town meeting this year. But I hope this finds you all well and safe. It's been a year of so many separations and so much uncertainty. It's been a year of disconnections. But through it all, our library's been here. Since March of 2020, our library staff of Sarah Montgomery, Wendy Makera, Tammy Johnson rode the waves of the state guidelines, opening the library when they could, closing it when they needed to. Kudos to them for their flexibility, resourcefulness, and mostly creativity. They kept the library going in our community, and they kept us connected. And kudos to our patrons who kept in touch, phoned the library, emailed, dropped finished books into the vestibule tote, picked up books and materials, which were all specially wrapped for you, during the days when the library was closed. Maybe you were a patron who donated fabric for mask makers, distributed masks, or used one of the 500 mask extenders the library printed. Or maybe you were one of the folks who partook of the over 700 grab and go activity kits the library made available. Or maybe you were one of the patrons who downloaded ebooks, audiobooks during this long year. Oh, I lost you.
Can you still hear us?
Yes, I just see a lot of PDFs on my screen. Can you hear me?
We can. Hang on, I'm just sharing.
Oh, that's the library. Ta-da! That's our library poster.
Neat.
So this is all the statistics that Sarah kept. This is, we know the library is an amazing place, but quantitatively, here's your documentation, here's your data that gives you an idea of how much happened this year, if you can all see it. Physical items circulation up 10%. Digital items increased 47% this year. And last year it had increased from the year before. So our library keeps growing and keeps becoming more and more important to our patrons. So shall I just continue?
Certainly, I can keep showing this.
Okay, all right. We'll do that when we get to the budget.
Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to point out that over 65,000 ebooks and audiobooks were downloaded this year. Maybe you were a family who enjoyed story time and STEAM backpacks the library made. Or maybe you were someone who stayed connected through technology by the 24/7 free expanded Wi-Fi access outside the library. Or maybe you borrowed snowshoes for an outdoor adventure. So our patrons kept us connected. And I just want to thank our hardworking board of trustees, Christina Bolduc, Peter Burns, Samantha Thomas, for their patience and flexibility as we moved our meetings to Zoom in order to be transparent during this challenging year when we couldn't meet in person. Thank you, Susan Cassavant, for agreeing to step in as our interim trustee to fill Laura Bellstrom's vacancy when she moved away. We are fortunate to benefit from both Laura and Susan's wisdom. And I want to welcome and thank Jonathan LaBruyere, our town administrator, who's become a valued part of our monthly meetings. Finally, I want to thank Bridget Rivet and the friends who've been there for us during this difficult time and are already planning the next to bid or not to bid for September 25th. All of you have forged connections to nurture our community and our souls during this challenging year. As a well-known author, Toby Forward wrote, "Civilized nations build libraries. Lands that have lost their soul close them down." So our library, Soulful, is alive and well, living in Fairfield, and we hope that everybody supports us on March 2nd, Article 5. Thank you. And Christina is now going to discuss some of the finances. If I can pass that over to Christina.
Jonathan, do you mind sharing that again, please?
Yes.
And excuse my children in the background. So financially right now, our budget for the library is $150,082 expected for this year. We are asking the taxpayers to vote and approve our budget, and what we'd actually need raised by taxes is $103,632. This is less than last year's tax request, approximately by $11,000, because we had a surplus of funds due to pandemic closures, restrictions, and fiscal restraint that happened throughout the year. The other $46,450, our revenues are from grants, the tax rollover, and funds for the endowment to help pay for the mortgage payment. And that is it. If anybody has questions specifically about the budget or anything Laura talked about, the library is just presenting this information. So if there are no questions, Jonathan, I hand that back to you as the host.
Certainly. Tom, do you have anything else? Okay. So I'm not sure if folks have received their town report or not. They were mailed out Thursday?
Friday.
Thursday or Friday. So folks should be receiving their annual town report very shortly. We did choose to switch to Australian ballot for this year due to the coronavirus and the pandemic. But certainly, please feel free to ask any questions. I can give you the amounts. So town budget to be raised in taxes will be $1,020,955. Last year's amount was $979,173. This is roughly a 4% increase in the municipal tax budget, mostly due to the highway department increase in construction projects and adding gravel to the roadways, but most of that increase is the highway department. Do you have anything else you'd like to say? No. So if there's specific questions, we're certainly welcome. We do have 45 minutes or so allotted for question and answers. So please feel free. Again, if you don't mind just raising your hands. Let's see. So at this time, we'll open it up for questions, and you can direct them to me, or we do have 3 select board members on, but please feel free to ask away.
One person's not here.
What?
I said our spokesperson is not here.
I don't see any questions. I guess if there are no questions, we're here.
I got a little one.
Yeah.
And I think I probably brought this up, and I limit my questions to things in my field, but there was an increase in ambulance and dispatch services. And I just wonder if you have a breakdown on which is which, if you divided that total.
Not off the top of my head, but yes, I can. There is a breakdown, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
And then just the background on this, AmCare ambulance, which serves Fairfield, has changed hands.
That is correct.
And I serve on the statewide EMS advisory committee, and this is the kind of thing that I think is coming into Vermont, and a lot of small emergency service units are having difficulties. Before COVID's made it all worse.
Certainly.
And I just wonder if that has to be monitored for price increases in the future. And I know that this is really two separate questions. One is, what does dispatch cost, which is a whole different issue.
Yep.
But does anybody ask them, how do they come up with this? Is it a per capita fee? Is it a flat fee? Is it a negotiation?
Yeah, it's a great question.
I have it from when they came to tell us. Do you remember what it was? Because it's in the minutes. I remember when Mo and
I guess
Taylor came, remember?
I can go look it up. It'll take me about 5 minutes if you'd like. I know that dispatch did increase significantly this past year, and they said that a lot of that was due to technology, new repeaters on Georgia Mountain. But this past year, the increase was due to dispatching services.
Was that, Jonathan, wasn't that separate from, that was the police and fire, that was separate from EMS, correct? Or are they all together?
Nope, they're all together under dispatching. So
Okay.
St. Albans Central Dispatch is our dispatching service, and they dispatch the EMS and fire. I believe state police is through a PSAP. I don't think they're dispatched through Central. But yes, that increase was through Central Dispatch, through St. Albans. That increase.
So, and if there was an increase because of technology, does the fire department, if they had good service with the
They'll be here at 7,
okay.
Dave's on now.
Hey, Dave's on. I'm also a member of the fire department. I haven't, I guess, noticed a difference, but we do get good reception. I live in Fairfax, and I get my tones through Fairfield. They come in very clear.
Can you identify who asked that question?
Thank you.
And what the question was, please? It was very hard to hear the question, please.
Do you mind just coming forward? The microphone's way up here, so.
Oh. The question was about on page 17. I was asking about the increase in cost for ambulance and dispatch, and with changes in the EMS system and the constant issue of dispatch, I was just wondering how that was negotiated. And Jonathan was saying that the dispatch part had an increase because of technology issues, and I was hoping that if we're paying more for that, our fire department is better served, and just checking to see if they had any dispatch or problems like that. So.
I can
What
tell
is your name, sir?
Patrick Malone.
Thank you very much.
welcome.
Okay.
Jonathan's gone to look it up. So that
I can, Mr. Malone, I can tell you there was no negotiation. The price was just brought to the select board with a description of why there was an increase. It was not up for negotiation.
And I you know, first of all, I think the folks that build and manage this budget in my 12 years here do a great job. And I don't mean to be nitpicking. It's more about getting the emergency services we need. So just a question, is it not negotiable? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Or is that a neutral thing?
I think what they did was they brought, if I remember correctly, I remember now Sergeant Lamoth coming with former Sergeant Taylor and just explaining why there was an increase. And I remember being satisfied personally with their explanation of the increase. There were some questions asked, but I don't want to say our backs are against the wall because that's never a true and accurate statement, but I felt personally satisfied with the description of why they were asking for the increase.
With my email. So dispatching services went up from 18,400 to 23,400, so $5,000. The last time that Chief Taylor came was November 14th of 2018. And at that time, Fairfield paid $17,784 a year, or $927 per capita. And I did reach out. I emailed the city manager, Dominic of St. Albans, kind of asking about that $5,000 increase, and I have not heard that. I did reach out.
It was 5,000 for each town within their range, correct? Not just Fairfield?
yes, I remember that.
I mean, this just happened this past year, but I didn't ask other towns to see what their increase was.
I remember them being included, other towns being included. Whatever their service area was, each town in that service area was also seeing an increase.
Yeah, when Taylor and Lamont came, they said every town was increasing.
Okay, well, I just, maybe for future budgets, I think it might be, in order to keep track of this, because those are both areas that, there's significant changes coming. And I think to make it more understandable, if you separate those things.
I agree.
Right, dispatch is really more of a fire department issue, and we don't want them to not be served with what they need.
No.
And then ambulance, with the changes in the EMS system, who knows where that's going to go? I suspect the price won't go down, and if they're charging people a per capita or something. And keep in mind, when it comes to EMS, if you're covered by any kind of insurance, chances are that bill's paid for. And so the per capita on top of that means we're paying twice for the service. So we just have to be careful.
Oh, good to know.
For AmCare, we pay them for this year $3,243 a month is what we're paying them.
3243. So is it calculated on a per capita?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And the dispatch we pay, once a year versus the ambulance care, they send us an invoice once a month.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly it's very simple in next year's budget to break those two line items out, and so that we can see what dispatch is and what ambulance service is. Yep.
I'd be happy to help you with that. Just
Okay. Yeah.
We would be happy to have your help.
Thank you for the question. That was great. Looks like Julie has a question.
Yep. Thanks, Jonathan. So my question, well, first I want to thank Melanie Riddle for being the grant writer for the town for a number of years.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry to see her go, and was wondering what the select board's intentions are, if they're going to be in support of hiring another grant writer. And I guess the library could chime in on this too. And I can speak for the school and community center, but we really appreciated having someone there to help us, particularly with the intricacies of the grant writing process. So I didn't know if the select board had discussed this and if they will be hiring another grant writer, or who will be hiring another grant writer. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. We did briefly discuss this at a few meetings ago. We are lucky enough to have a gentleman who's now town administrator who happens to know how to write grants as well, which has been a big bonus. I'm not quite sure we've made an offer to that individual, but it has been discussed. We most certainly need a grant writer. When you look at the cost of the grant writer compared to the value they bring us, it's a no-brainer, right? The value is pennies on the dollar. So we definitely need a grant writer moving forward. I would agree with that statement 100%. And losing Melanie not only as a grant writer, but as she's become a friend of mine. She's pretty darn awesome. And it was sad to see her go in that capacity.
Well, I'm sorry. I wasn't aware she was leaving, but I know she's been helpful to the library as well.
Yeah.
So it will be a loss for us as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks. I'm glad you're in support. And
I believe, Julie, we split the cost, if I'm not mistaken. I think we all contribute to the cost of the grant writer.
We do, yeah.
Yes.
And it's in the community center's budget, and I think the schools and
libraries as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And the town as well. So the town, the library, the community center, and the school all contribute towards the grant writer.
Excellent.
Hey, Joy Crossman, is that a job you want to do?
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
You learn a lot, Tori.
I don't know. I'll have to stew on it after this.
So the rec committee is going to take full advantage of Mr. Crossman's expertise. We can promise you that.
And the Historical Society, too.
Well, I guess since I'm being referenced here, I might as well go ahead and ask my question. This is kind of related to, I guess, Article 4. Let me turn my video on here. So I was wondering if it was possible. I know some towns, people in the town can actually purchase, or not purchase, they can get calcium chloride from the town. I know over the summer there were times when I know a lot of people are complaining about dust on the roads and whatnot. And I know there's just, sometimes the road crews aren't available, and there's so many roads in Fairfield. So I don't know, is that a possibility or a way to work that into the budget where people can just go and pick up a bucket of calcium chloride and kind of, they can spread it themselves essentially with a sprayer in front of their driveways? I don't know if that's ever been talked about or considered.
It's not ever been mentioned since I've been sitting. I believe, we'd have to discuss if it would, I don't believe it's harmful, correct? My first concern is that there would maybe be not overusage, but misusage. We just don't want people coming, grabbing and just spreading it, like crazy, and then having maybe some owners using it much more than they should or more often. I think we would have to have that discussion. The sand pile is that's a different thing, but the sand pile is open to the public, but I've never heard anyone ask for that before, Tori. It is a little more expensive than sand. So that would be something that we would, I don't think it's a no, but there would be a little bit more to it than just offering access. Just for for a few reasons, but that's a great question. We can actually talk about that at tonight's select board meeting. But I believe for me personally, you're the first one to ever ask that.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll try to find out what the towns were that actually did that, because I know it's been successful, and personally, the road crews have been doing awesome this winter. So I think it's putting all of us to shame as far as plowing our driveways. But the summer is a little bit of a bigger beast. So just maybe something if you guys don't mind talking about it, and then and following up if possible, it'd be awesome.
Not a problem. Like, we can talk about it tonight. We can bring it up.
Cool.
I could go do the $5,000 school year, somebody leaving available with that. And then just lost.
Is it also the MSD sheet on it too?
That's what I was thinking.
It'd be an MSD sheet.
Charlie,
Yes.
Charlie, I have a question.
Hey, Sue, how
Just
are you?
as a point, I'm good. How are you?
Amazing. Even better now that I get to see you.
Yeah, there you go. I bet. So, just as a point, are you guys allowed to speak in select board meetings on items that aren't warned
Jonathan.
on the agenda?
Jonathan. That's a Jonathan
Just
question.
curious.
So no decisions can be made regarding anything that's not on the agenda. That is correct.
But it can be discussed.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly bring it up. I can put it under my report or the highway foreman's report, but Sue is correct. No decisions can be made unless it's on the warrant agenda.
But it's open for discussion, just no decisions can be made.
That is correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't see any other hands. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, Jonathan, it's Christina. I'm just curious on Article 4. I know Tori just mentioned it. It's being requested to be moved to the town equipment fund. Is there something specific in mind, or are we just looking at the budget? Excuse me. Sorry, that's my 2-year-old.
That was awesome. That was great.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
I was just asking if there was, you got him? It was just asking if there was a specific intent for moving 113,000 to the town equipment fund for something specific to purchase, or if it was just that's low and we're putting it there for the future.
So there was 2 purchases that came out of the town equipment fund this year that were pretty hefty. One was the sidewalk plow for our new sidewalks in Fairfield Center. And the second one was a new tandem truck that the highway department purchased. So yes, after those 2 purchases, our equipment fund was getting low, which is why the thought was to go with that fund to apply the surplus.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Are there any other questions? And I'm not seeing any hands. Would Dave or Gene, Charlie, Tom, would you guys like to say anything?
The only thing I have to say about the car, I think there's a liability with a 5,000 gallon tank. So I think that would be a issue we really have to talk and see what was up with that.
Yep. And certainly our highway foreman is not here, so we'll certainly have to, speak to him and get his input on that as well.
I could talk. The only thing I would have, Jonathan, would be as the rec committee, not as a select board member.
Well,
Just some updates with the rec committee. We had a very successful Halloween gathering where we did a drive-through Halloween. We had over 100 cars and 200 kids come through, which was really nice to see. It was received pretty well. We had another holiday drive-through. We did what we could as far as the holiday season with drive-through and blow-ups and such. We are planning a holiday carnival, which is actually happening right now. If you go on the Town of Fairfield's website or our Facebook, the Rec Committee's Facebook page, we're trying to get kids active over break where they can do different activities, basically with a checklist. And if you get the checklist done, you get entered for a raffle, which has gift certificates from most local businesses, some local honey, some local syrup, West End Pizza, Stones. Everybody in town has kind of offered that up. So that's kind of nice to get. We've had some challenges with COVID, as everybody has. I know library most certainly has felt that as well. And it's been challenging to become creative and get people active and out while obeying the governor's regulations. So we're really trying hard to not make an effort, because we've always made an effort, but really try to get people active in the community under these current guidelines and restrictions. Other than that, we've recently met with Tori Crossman and the Historical Society about joining together and taking over the Common School space, which is a beautiful building, which we'd love to see kept active. There's a lot of work that has to go into that before anything, concrete happens, but the discussion has begun. The school is completely out. We've looked at the space, and together, I believe collaboratively, we're really hopeful and should have a presentation put together to offer the select board to see what they think. Because it's just too darn cool of a building to see sit there and not be used. It really is. Even though I am scared of it at night, because it is haunted, and I really don't feel comfortable in there at night, and I will never be alone in there after dark. But other than that, the building is fantastic. And we're just looking forward. We have begun discussion about maybe pond hockey, but we have to look at the governor's guidelines to what that would look like, and if we thought we could actually pull something off without putting anyone in danger or jeopardy, of course. But pond hockey is an old Fairfield classic we haven't really done much with lately. It is outdoors, so we have some things we need to check out before we can offer that, but that is on our radar. As the state moves forward with the rail trail, I've looked into not rentals, but bikes to, like we do with our snowshoes at the library. We've talked about bikes, having people explore our rail trail, and we have a lot of great ideas. It's just not as easy as it once was, unfortunately. So if anybody has any input, we do meet the third Tuesday of every month. You can join us virtually, of course, at 6:30. And we're hopeful maybe not this month, but the next month we might be over at the Common School. We'd love to have you over. So that's it for the Rec Committee.
Well, kudos to you for getting people out.
We're trying, Laura. We're trying.
That's so important.
We are trying.
It's been a tough year for that.
I mean, it's the second winter we've lost, and where we live in Fairfield, winter sports and winter activities are big, right? There's not a lot to do. So getting the people out and active is very important, and it's just been a challenge. It really has. We're not able to offer recreation basketball this year. The school views us as an outside organization, and they are not allowing outside organizations to use their buildings. We did go back and forth with Maple Run a little bit. I was a little upset, I'm not going to lie. I took being called an outside organization very personally, because the kids that are part of the Fairfield Rec all go to the Fairfield Center School. And they're in the building on a weekly basis. And I had a hard time with that at first, but unfortunately we were not given permission. So this is the first time I've been in this town for 14 years. It's the first time we haven't offered recreation basketball in 14 years. And it was a little disappointing, to say the least. But we are trying, Laura. We are. And I know, we see what you guys are doing. We'd love to continue working with the library. We have started a relationship with, Tori and the Historical Society. Our relationship with the East Fairfield Community Center has been great, especially with the Run for Chat. Kind of feels nice getting people together and organizations and committees working together in the town. It feels pretty good, I'm not going to lie.
Good.
I'll kind of springboard off of Charlie, so we'll go from one bald guy to another, I think. So speaking for the Historical Society, so we are excited to kind of revamp it. Julie Wolcott and Melissa Manson and a few others did a great job. Before it kind of fizzled out, I think around 2003. But they set up a lot of good stuff. So we've been working on kind of getting that archived. We're hoping to get it all digital. So we're hoping to have it, all of the photos and artifacts, all online for kids or researchers to kind of pull up real easy. We're also trying to kind of, obviously cooperate with the rec committee, with the library, and with Jamie Tibbetts at the school. So obviously they do Project Sweet Talk, and they've got, I don't know how many years of interviews with sugar makers. And so we're hoping to get some of that, and we can catalog that and kind of digitize it as well. And then we've also had some meetings on long range events, essentially. So two of the main events we're kind of planning for right now, we'd like to do an ice harvest. Basically, the way they used to harvest ice to keep the milk cold and food. We're kind of looking at that on Fairfield Pond. It would probably be next winter due to COVID. But we're hoping to work with the rec committee and others on that, so that we can get kids outside and cutting ice and pulling it, and we can have, ice fishing lessons and a few other things. And the other thing is I've been talking to Tom Murphy and the owner at the Clothier in St. Albans. They're kind of co-owned by Twigs, and we're looking to do some historical lecture nights at the Speakeasy. So, basically people can dress up 1920s garb, and we're going to give them some articles from Fairfield and Bakersfield about the Prohibition era. Actually, there's, two Prohibition eras essentially. So that's one of the events we're going to look at kind of opening up once COVID dwindles down. So, but overall, we're really excited to be working with everybody. So it's been great having a library already well established and underway, and a rec committee that's doing a great job. So it's been easy for us to kind of step in and come up with ideas. So look forward to working with everybody.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And I would say the school has always done a great job with their Project Sweet Talk program that they do every year. Some of it includes like oral histories from a bunch of townspeople, and which I think is cataloged, with pictures and their stories. But it would be great. Like, I just think about my father-in-law, who was born on the farm that he still lives on, who just turned 94. And I understand, he's had some health issues lately, but I think it would be great to get oral histories from these folks that are still here, because we'll lose this if we don't do it now. Anyways, that makes sense. I'm excited for the Historical Society.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jamie Tibbetts at the school I think she's working on getting permissions from some of the kids who conducted the interviews, so that, we have permission to put their videos on YouTube or however we digitize it. So that is a work in progress. So, but the material's there, which is awesome. So
thank you.
That's wonderful.
Do you have an update, fire department, Tim or Dave?
Just wondering about the bridge, that's all.
Okay, absolutely. Dave, do you want to touch on the pop-ups and things of that nature?
Nope.
Gene, anything?
Wake up, Dean.
We're having difficulty hearing you.
He didn't say anything. I guess I can go. I just want to thank, the select board, the committees. Today has been a year meeting with the town of Fairfield. Yes.
So anyhow, I'm sorry, I was on, I couldn't get into the meeting, so I had to call.
Everybody, please mute your microphones if you're not talking.
Okay. That's better. All right. So again, I just want to say thank you to, again, all town staff and boards and residents. Today has been 1 year that I've been with the town of Fairfield, and it's been tremendous. We've accomplished so much in 1 year during this pandemic. So, thank you again for everyone for your support, and for working with all of us to really make Fairfield a better place for us all. So again, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We have a message. Oh. All right, we have about 10 minutes left before the second part of the meeting. Just so folks that are on the meeting are aware, VTrans will be giving a presentation at 7 o'clock regarding some work on a bridge on Route 36 near the Fairfield Market, and that will take place at 7 o'clock. But are there any other questions related to the town meeting, public information, any questions for select board members? Again, we have about 10 minutes left to field questions.
I might have another one.
Of course.
What are the Cat Crusaders? Article 11.
Linda?
They help round up and get feral cats spayed and neutered. So they've done quite a few farms in the area, and that's what they are, cat crusaders, to spay and neuter feral cats.
Was that the same organization that was here a few years ago doing that?
They hadn't asked for money before, but yeah, they've been around for a while. No. No, it's Jamie Rushford out of Enosburg is one of the key participants. I mean, she goes out and traps the cats and organizes, the transportation and getting everything taken care of.
Great idea.
I guess I'll give one more shout out to Amanda Forbes. Amanda through this past year has been instrumental in working with me in allowing a seamless transition from one position to another. So I know she's not on tonight and couldn't be here, but certainly want to give a shout out to Amanda for all her hard work. Are there any further questions?
Perfect. 2 minutes to relax before.
All right. Well, hearing none. Oh, Laura? Yep, go ahead. You have to unmute yourself.
Oh, yeah, you said unmute isn't allowed.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, just a question. So I asked you about how to get a mail-in ballot, and then I called Linda, and she suggested I email her. Is there information out to the community for people who would choose that option?
Me or you? Either one's fine.
It's the same as it's always been. If people call in or, and request one, or come in the office, there is a form actually that we ask to fill out from the Secretary of State's office. However, it's no different this year than any other town meeting. People have requested, absentee ballots every year since I've been here. So it's just, if they want one, they can request one and it will be mailed to them.
Didn't you put it on front porch?
In the deadline.
Well, I mean, we have to have the ballots back by town meeting day, so if somebody wants one mailed to them, they can't, they gotta let us know in the next few days, or else it's not gonna get turned around in time.
Yeah, so if we do mail folks ballots or they do request an absentee ballot, they're due back to us by 7 p.m. of town meeting day. And the polls will be opened here at the town office building from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. For voting.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question, Laura?
Well, I'm just thinking everything is so mishmash this year, and in the past, people could come to the school and vote. And this year, for a variety of reasons, people may not be comfortable going to the town clerk's office to vote. So I was just wondering if there was any particular information disseminated to the community about that option.
So I posted information regarding tonight's meeting, but I
Yes.
not posted information regarding, how to request an absentee ballot or of that nature. Again, certainly, please feel free to reach out to us and we can get folks absentee ballots. But the challenge is we have to mail them to a place that's not local, in the timing that it'll take to get the ballots to and from.
We need to put it on front porch one.
But yes, I will post something first thing tomorrow morning, Laura.
Oh, perfect, perfect, perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions? And I see Laura Stone is on from VTrans for our next meeting. And last call for questions related to the public information hearing for town meeting day.
If there are no questions, I'm going to bid you all a good night. Thank you all. Thank you all for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Have a great night.
You too.
All right, folks, so we'll just take a 5-minute recess before our next presentation. Hi, Laura. We're just giving it about one more minute and then we'll get started.
Great, thank you.
Okay, well, it's now 7 o'clock. We're going to start the regional concerns meeting. I'll let Laura introduce herself, and feel free. I might have to give you sharing permission. I have no idea how to do that, but we will. More.
If you go to her,
Yep,
click on her little dots.
yep.
No, well, yeah, click on her little dots and on her dot.
Not letting me.
Well, there you go. Make host. It should have a make choice. So she'll just have to give you back hosting when she gets.
Shut up, man. Listen to me. This shit, shut up. I want you fuck you up.
Might have a password.
Yep.
And protect your waiting room.
Yep. Okay. Laura, take it away.
Thank you. Let me go ahead and hopefully everybody can see my screen here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so welcome. This is the Regional Concerns meeting for the Fairfield Deck Print 51 project, Vermont Route 36, Bridge 6 over Fairfield River. Rob Young. Let's see if I can mute some users here. There we go. So Rob Young is going to be the VTrans project manager. I'm the VTrans scoping engineer. Really, the purpose of our meeting tonight, we want to provide an understanding of our approach to the project. We want to provide an overview of the project constraints, discuss the alternatives that we considered in the scoping report, as well as our selected alternative, and really provide an opportunity.
Shut up, Laura. You listen to me. You talk too much.
Who is that?
Let's see if I can mute somebody here again. So provide an opportunity to ask questions and voice concerns. I will ask that people hold off on comments and questions till the end here. So here's a location map here. The bridge is located just to the east of North Road. And an aerial view. You're probably familiar with the bridge.
Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah.
You can't anymore because you made her the,
I made her the host.
So what you need to do is tell her how to do it.
So we have to enable the waiting room or something, right? And
well, you don't have to enable waiting room, but you can disallow people to unmute themselves.
Yeah.
You can mute everybody.
So I removed a participant. I hope that's okay. I'm not sure if that's allowed or not. But...
It is today.
Okay. Sorry about that. So here's an aerial view of the bridge. I'm sure you're familiar where it's located. It's located right at the United States Postal Service, the Fairfield Market, and this gas station. Right here, we also have the fire department just to the east of the bridge over here. This is probably a good time to point out, we're aware there's a lot of schools in the area. There's the fire department, town offices in the area, places of worship, businesses. There's a lot going on in the area here. Have a busy place. So first, I'm going to briefly talk about the VTrans project development process. Next, give a project overview, so talk about the existing conditions of the bridge. the resources present, the alternatives that we considered and ultimately our selected alternative. We're going to talk about the maintenance of traffic options that we considered and what we ultimately selected. Schedule, so when you can expect to see the project in construction. Summary, and then questions again at the bottom. So here's the V-Trans project development process. This slide is really just to show that we're at this really early stage of project development. The project's been funded. We're just ending this this project definition phase. This is where we identify the resources, the environmental, the cultural resources present, the constraints around the bridge. We evaluate alternatives. We have this public participation piece.
Shut up, Laura. You listen to her. I get too much project. It's just
ultimately, we want to build consensus towards our recommended scope. At the end of this process, we're at project defined. That's when the project is going to go into project design. That's when we're going to start quantifying the areas of impact, start the environmental permitting process, the right-of-way process if needed, and develop the plans, estimates, and specifications. Then a contract will be awarded and project will move. There we go.
Unbelievable.
So before I move on, just some descriptions of terms that we use. The bridge deck is the part that is the riding surface that you ride over. Next, we have the beams, or the superstructure is what holds up that deck. And then the supports of the bridge, a lot of times we refer to those as the abutments or the substructures. Here's a picture looking west over Bridge 6. The road is classified as a major collector. It's an 89-foot long single-spanned roll beam bridge owned by the state of Vermont. So there's no local funds here. It's 80% federally funded, 20% state funded. It was constructed in 1955. And again, like I already mentioned, the United States Post Office and the gas station market is located in the southwest quadrant, really close proximity to the project. So here's a picture looking east over Bridge 6. There are aerial utilities located in the project area. Also, the Fairfield Town Garage and the fire department are located 0.2 miles to the east on Route 36. So existing conditions, the existing deck is in fair condition. It's approaching poor condition. There's extensive saturation throughout with map cracking and chunks of concrete falling out. Additionally, there's a 1 foot by 2 foot full depth hole that's developed in the deck. So it is really approaching poor condition. The existing beams, overall, they're in satisfactory condition. They do have moderate paint distress with rusting. And it's especially bad at the beam ends where there's some infiltration with leaky points. The reinforced concrete curtain wall at abutment 2 has a full height vertical crack. And again, there's a full height vertical crack at abutment 1 in the back wall. So here's a picture of the bottom of the deck. So the deck is rated a 5 fair. You can see there's a lot of cracks here. There's that full depth hole that's developed, some exposed rebar. The superstructure or the beams, those are rated a 6. They're in satisfactory condition. And the substructure or the supports at either end of the bridge are in satisfactory condition. Here's a picture of the northern abutment. I think that's that. You can see in this picture, there's that crack that I mentioned. Again, the southern abutment, you can see there's a crack, but overall satisfactory condition. These are really stable foundations. They're on this, they're poured right on this sound bedrock here. So we don't expect a lot of movement with those substructures. Again, the underside of the deck. The railing, there is quite a bit of section loss in the old railing. You can see it's there's not a lot of of metal left there. Resources. So here's a picture looking downstream from Bridge 6. Again, there's bedrock outcrops all throughout the channel. We do have hazardous waste located in close proximity to the project. I believe that is the gas station. There's an archaeologically sensitive area in the northwest quadrant, which consists of mill remains. This is important for wildlife habitat. We have northern long-eared bat habitat, and that really just restricts what time of year we can do any tree cutting. And there are historic resources. So the residences at 4775 Route 36, the residence at 4620 Vermont Route 36, and the post office are considered historic. So here's a layout view of the existing conditions. So this gray section right here, hopefully you can see my pointer, that's the existing bridge. These red lines here, that's the existing state-owned right-of-way. Here's the gas station. In this section, I'd like to point out these little red boxes here. There's some utility pedestals located there. They're pretty substantial. So design criteria and considerations, there's an average daily traffic of 2,000 vehicles per day, a design hourly volume of 260 vehicles per hour. So that's your peak hour of traffic. You would see 260 vehicles in that hour, and a percent trucks of 11.4. So the alternatives that we considered in the scoping report, we looked at no action, but obviously with the condition of that deck, there is additional maintenance required in the next 10 years. Next, we looked at a minor rehabilitation. So that would just be removing any deteriorated concrete, reforming it and patching it with new concrete. And we would expect about a 15-year design life out of a minor rehab. Next, we looked at a deck replacement, both accelerated bridge construction, and we looked at a conventional type deck replacement. This would include a new deck poured on the existing beams, new bridge railing. It would have an 11.3 typical section, which meets the minimum standard and matches the existing conditions out there right now. And we'd expect about a 30-year design life out of a deck replacement. Next, we looked at a deck replacement with beam painting just to address the issues with the beam flaking off, especially on those outside beams. So this would be very similar to the deck replacement. It would just include the beam painting. A lot of times that's really expensive just because of the lead abatement issues. And so beam painting can be quite expensive and really doesn't give you that much more design life. And we also considered a superstructure replacement here, which would replace the deck, the railing, and the beam, so everything above those abutments or the supports. And we get about a 40-year design life out of the superstructure replacement. Ultimately, we selected a deck replacement here. This would be replacing the existing deck and railings. We'd match the existing typical section, which is 2 11-foot travel lanes with 3-foot shoulders. We're going to be designing this this says 40 here, but it is 30 to 40 years. Right-of-way potentially needed for guardrail replacement, so I'll explain that in the next slide. So here's the proposed typical section. Again, that's those 11-foot travel lanes with a 3-foot shoulder. And the proposed layout. So it looks very similar to existing because we're just taking off the existing deck and putting an existing deck or putting a new deck right back in the same footprint. There is, and of course it's not shown in this picture, but there's the potential for a bit of right-of-way right here in this quadrant, just for the guardrail terminal. We put a flare on that guardrail terminal. So it's potential for a small sliver right in this bottom right quadrant here. So it have an 11-foot, 3-foot typical section, 30 to 40-year design life. There's the proposed profile of the bridge. So this is a picture like if you're standing in the stream and looking through the bridge. We're really just going to match the existing vertical alignment. And maintenance of traffic. So we considered an off-site detour, a temporary bridge, and phased construction. Ultimately, we selected a road closure here. We're proposing a 21-day road closure, chosen and signed by the state of Vermont. The regional detour route does have an end-to-end distance of 42 miles, and there is a local bypass route available. So this would be the signed detour route that the state would sign. It would be Vermont Route 36 to Route 104 to Route 105 and 108 back to Vermont Route 36. It does have a 14.6 mile through route. So that's from one side of Vermont Route 36 to the other side. That's that 14.6. There's 27.1 miles is the detour route for an end-to-end distance. So end-to-end is if you're going from one side of the bridge all the way around the detour to the other side of the bridge. That is 42 miles end-to-end and added miles of 12.5. I think it's worth mentioning there is a local bypass route available. It's not paved. I'm sure it's posted for 24,000 pounds. But this is Vermont Route 36, the North Road, Chester A. Arthur Road, and Ryan Road back to Vermont Route 36. This does have an end-to-end distance of 8.5 miles, and according to Google Maps, takes 14 miles to drive. So some preliminary project schedule. Right now, we have this in our spending in our budget for the summer of 2024. There's a total cost estimate of approximately $1.2 million. And a summary. So a deck replacement with traffic maintained on an off-site detour will be replacing the existing deck and the railings. We are going to use something called partial depth precast deck panels. So with typical cast in place concrete, we would expect about a 45-day bridge closure. So we're using this, this partial precast concrete system so we can reduce that closure time down to 21 days. I'm going to have a 11-foot, 3-foot typical section so that that rail-to-rail width is going to match what's out there right now. It meets the current standards for safety and service. 40-year design life. A small amount of right-of-way may be needed for guardrail replacement as discussed. Impacts to utilities and additional limits outside the right-of-way that would have to be acquired if we placed a temporary bridge are avoided with a bridge closure. And again, we have a construction year of 2024. So before I open it up to questions and comments, I'll just, I'll note this website here up at the top, and the town does have a copy of this website. All future plan submittals will go up on that site. Tonight's presentation is up on that site, so you can track the project there. So I guess I'll open it up to questions and comments at this time.
Laura, with the project starting roughly 3 years from now, you feel confident that the bridge will withstand that type of time frame before construction can begin?
Sure, I do believe it will. It's still inspected on a regular basis by our bridge inspectors. If something is found that needs to be repaired, then our bridge crew would go out there
Okay.
And if we needed to put a plate out there, they would go and repair it and patch it up in preparation for the deck replacement.
Laura, that's an annual inspection?
Oh, so when the substructures are, or when the components are rated a 5 or above, I believe it's a biannual inspection. Once components are rated 4, so poor or lower, then it becomes an annual inspection. Certainly, you know, our district staff are driving over this bridge all the time. If they find something, they reach out to the bridge crew. A lot of times, if a member of the community, you know, if there's a big pothole that forms or something, they will reach out to our bridge inspection crew or the district staff, and we get somebody to go take a look at it.
So it's biannual now, but it will be annual probably by next year or the year after.
It could be, certainly. And, you know, when we debated looking at phased construction so we could keep traffic open versus a bridge closure here, that was one of the components that we looked at, was just the existing condition of the bridge. And we were worried about the integrity of the deck when we saw cut right down the middle of that, maintain traffic on one side. And that definitely played into our ultimate selection of the bridge closure.
Is there enough area in there and around there to be able to do a temporary bridge?
I think I heard that. Sorry, it was a little, did you ask about, is there enough area for a temporary bridge?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so I did bring up, put some rudimentary drawings here. So a temporary bridge on the upstream side would come very, very close to this garage here, or this house. It would also have additional impacts to this hazardous site right here. And hazardous contamination, once you get into it and digging up dirt and everything, it can get very expensive pretty quickly. And the other side, a downstream temporary bridge, we really wanted to avoid, so we have a utility pole right here, and also this telephone pedestal. Like I said, this is like a pretty substantial utility pedestal right here. So we did want to avoid that. Also, you know, a lot of times when we're putting in like a full bridge, we can kind of justify the costs of a temporary bridge because we're getting, you know, a 75-year design life project. When we're looking at a deck replacement, which is a less expensive project, it can be constructed faster, it's a quicker project, then, you know, the closures start being more appealing.
So what suggestions do you have, Laura, then, as far as the fire department being on one side of the bridge on the east side, and if there's a fire on the west side and it's going to take us 25 minutes longer to get to a fire?
Yeah, sure. That's a concern that a lot of towns have. There's some ways around it. Some towns have elected to park, if you have an extra vehicle, on the other side of the bridge. So there is a vehicle, fire truck or what have you. I'm not sure what the town of Fairfield has in their inventory, but you can park another vehicle on the other side of the bridge in case there's an emergency. Also mutual aid from, I believe it would be Fletcher, St. Albans. So there's an opportunity for mutual aid from neighboring towns.
What is the overall increase in cost of doing a temporary bridge?
So if we look at a temporary bridge, 1.2 million versus, you know, about 1.1 million with this accelerated construction techniques, if we were to do a cast in place deck, and these durations aren't correct, sorry, they weren't in my official presentation, so I didn't look them over. If we were to do a traditional cast in place deck, which would have about a 40-day closure, it would be about $780,000. But it's just as much the impacts to utilities, the impacts to those hazardous wastes, the right-of-way, getting this through the right-of-way process. So the existing condition of the bridge is something else that we're worried about. So when we do need to get right-of-way, that easily adds 2 years onto a project development process. And so, you know, we really want to get this project through our project development process as quickly as possible. So there are some financial incentives to the town. I know there is that local bypass route, and a lot of towns, you know, they're worried about wear and tear to their local bypass routes, you know, enforcement on the local bypass routes. So we do have something called the Local Bypass Mitigation Grant. And with that grant, towns they're given a small grant, small stipend for, you know, dust control, maybe it's speed reductions, and that's based on, you know, the type of road that the local bypass is, the length of the closure, the distance driven. So that is something that if the town's interested in for maintenance of that local bypass route. Now that won't be a signed route, but we do acknowledge that that is something that locals are going to drive.
Was that an added cost to our select board's budget for the
No,
dust control?
they give you a grant, 100%.
Grant?
Yep.
It's more about the fact of the safety and being able to get to either an accident or a fire in a timely manner is the biggest concern. Not to mention in the middle of summer. I mean, depending on what days it is in the middle of summer, the amount of feed trucks that probably go down this road in one day. I mean, that's not due to safety, but more convenience. But I think my biggest concern is with being able to get to an accident or fire in a timely manner.
Yep, and I think that's definitely a valid concern. So right now we're starting with a 21-day closure. There are things that we can do to reduce that 21 days. I don't see that being any less than 14 days. But if we could, you know, close the bridge to one lane alternating for just a week or before to do some of the demo work, maybe do some railing work, some prep work to the beams, it's possible that we can reduce that. And we can certainly look into it as we develop our construction schedules. But I mean, 14 days, I think would be the absolute minimum here.
So the only other question I have, Laura, is we're certain that this is going to happen in the summer because there is a likelihood that we're going to have to move some fire trucks. And if we get into the fall on this thing, these trucks can't sit outside in the cold, especially as we get into, you know, mid to late fall, just due to concerns with freezing. So I'm hearing you say summer, and that's 100% accurate.
Yeah, so our typical construction season, it starts April 15th and it runs through October. And so when I do say summer, yes, it's summer anytime between April 15th and through October. And that's something that the state would work with the town on, that timing of the closure. So I know there is a lot of farms located in the area, so it could be that we wait till, you know, the first cut of the season for haying, and then we go out and close the bridge. So we can definitely work with the town if you want it to happen. So I assume that this is a school bus route for school buses in the area. A lot of towns want their closures to happen so it doesn't affect the school bus routes. But really anytime between that April and October date, we're open to working with the town on that timing.
15 houses on the other, 16 houses on the other side of the bridge for mail.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
There's 16 houses on the other side of the bridge that we deliver mail to.
Yep, and so again, like the fire department, I assume this is the post office speaking. Like the fire department, there's an option to maybe either park a car on the other side or take the local bypass route, find a way around. It is going to be, 21 days.
You'll love that. I'll quit by them.
Yes. Sorry, someone was going to say something.
Yeah, this is Dave. Laura, how realistic do you think, honestly, a 14 to 21 day closure is?
Oh yeah, it's very realistic. Our accelerated bridge program has been around since 2012, really after Irene, when all those bridges were washed out. We had to replace bridges, really, really quickly. We've done full bridge replacements in 21 days. Now, this isn't the location here that's possible, just because of the design features there, but we're very confident in that 21 days.
Okay. Another question for you. Our local route that most people are going to use has another bridge that's in very poor condition. Is that something you guys have looked at and you're okay with that?
So I guess I'm not exactly sure which bridge you're referring to. If there is a bridge on that local bypass route that is in poor condition, if there's another local bypass route that the town would like to promote, we can give that grant money towards that route. Also, part of that money could be used for, I don't know if it's the bridge rail that's wrong on that's the issue with the bridge, or if it's the condition ratings.
I think it's on one of the lists of bridges to be replaced very soon. It's in very.
Dave, which one is that?
Chester Arthur.
Chester Arthur. I'm just worried that we get into a project and find out that excess traffic on that bridge may cause it to be closed down.
I'll make note of that. Yeah, I was unaware of that bridge, but I mean, we're not proposing that cars go on the local bypass route. This is just, it's local traffic, passenger cars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We did just have another town-owned structure in Fairfield programmed. And I'm curious, it is a town-owned structure. I'm curious if it's the bridge that you're referring to. I don't remember what bridge number it is that was just programmed, but.
I mean, we received a letter from the bridge department on, was it Parity?
Yes.
Parity Road, that we had to make some replacements on.
And oh yes, Chester Arthur was on the accelerated. We got denied midsummer.
Okay.
And alternating traffic on this existing bridge when fixing it is definitely out of the picture.
Yeah, based on the existing deck, condition. We were worried about saw cutting it in half. Also, it's a 6-beam bridge. When we have 5 beams, it's a little easier. When we have that 6th beam, it's hard to work out the geometry there with maintaining traffic. We also weren't confident that we could get a 12-foot width maintained. We're worried about farming traffic going over. Phased construction could be an 11-foot width lane, which is substandard for what we like to provide.
Are there any other comments, questions for Laura?
If they paint those high beams, they're gonna paint the high beams, is that gonna be Vermonters doing that? Is that gonna be a company out of New Hampshire doing it? I did the bridge down on over the interstate. It took an extra month and a half to do.
Did you catch that, Laura?
I heard something about painting I-beams. So we're not proposing painting the I-beams here. It's just we're leaving the existing beams as is. There's going to be some cleaning on the top of the beams, but we're not proposing painting them here.
Thank you.
When do you need the select board's decision or the town's decision on this?
Yeah, so this is a state-owned bridge, so we're not waiting for a decision from you. There's no town funding here. This is a concerns meeting. We want to hear your concerns. So as we move forward into the design phase, we can take those concerns into consideration. So do you happen to know, is Town Highway 29, is that the bridge where
that was the Parity Road one.
Parity, Town Highway 1, Chester, I think.
Okay, because we do have a Town Highway bridge that was just programmed, bridge number 49 on Town Highway 29. So that one has been accepted into the Town Highway Bridge program.
I don't know off the top of my head, but I believe that was the Parity Road one, which I had reached out and we were told that it didn't make the program as of this summer. So did things change since then, or?
There was one that this bridge was just authorized for funding on the 19th. So a couple days ago.
Oh, okay.
So soon that we haven't even had the chance to reach out to you yet.
Awesome.
So we'll be in contact about that one.
Thanks, Laura.
Yep.
Any other questions for Laura while we have her here?
Bridge 51 on Town Highway 2.
That's the one on Chester Arthur. Bridge 51 on Town Highway 2 is the Chester Arthur Bridge.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can suggest with that is just keep promoting it, keep bringing it up to the regional, the RPC. And just keep making a push for it. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
So you were saying 2,000 cars a day go down 36 here. How many do you estimate will take the route around 108 versus the route right here in town? Because that bridge that's on Chester Arthur Road is just a one-way bridge. Or not a one-way bridge, but a one-lane bridge. So if you start 100 cars an hour, well, yeah, I mean, depending on which way they're going, but you know, say you split in half, 100.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people, putting a lot of people on a blind corner and a blind bridge.
And then the question I have too, Laura, is how is the mitigation bypass grant award amount determined? Is that based on the number of cars or the length of the local detour, or what's the criteria for determining that?
Yep, both of those. So it's based on the class of town highway. So, you know, class two versus class three. It's based on the length and the duration of the detour, or the length of the local bypass route, the duration of the closure. You know, it's based on gravel versus paved, the number of cars per day. It's not, you know, it's, you know, it could be like a couple $1,000s.
Thank you.
Yep. So in terms of how many cars are going to drive that, sorry, I missed that question. So the 2,000 cars a day, that's the out year, that's our design year, AADT. It's a little bit less right now. It's 1,800 vehicles per day. Certainly trucks, we do not want trucks taking that route. You know, on either side where this detour starts, on either end of Vermont Route 36, you know, I think this is a good location for, you know, some extra PCMS boards. We really want to do some outreach to the trucking community, make sure they're not coming up to the bridge. And in terms of the local bypass route, we don't sign that, we don't promote it. It's just however many locals know about it.
So Laura, it might make sense, you know, with that bridge being set up the way it is, if there's room in that local grant to put up some signaling there, because with the volume of traffic flow that we're going to have, especially, you know, in the morning hours on the way to work and in the afternoon on the way from work, we may want to have some signaling set up there, just so, you know, we can avoid maybe long lines and everybody knows what's going on. I think it would make it a lot safer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's a great suggestion. I'm not sure if we'd be able to pay for that as part of the project using the federal funding. Rob Young is on the line. It looks like you might know better.
Oh, yes. So the traffic light you're talking at the beginning and end of the local bypass route?
There's a narrow bridge on the bypass route, so it's basically an alternating one-way bridge.
Oh, okay. I see. So a light along that route. Yeah, that could be part of the grant. We could maybe have to look more into it, but maybe that'd be part of the funding included with the grant.
So that would be additional funds that we would give to the town, and they would have to pursue getting the light.
Yeah, if it's on a town road, it would probably be the town decision to put that light up. But we could talk into the, you know, we could look at that when we calculate the grant.
Okay.
We could do that with the local grant funding they give us. We could contract.
That's really the turn up this way, even though we have that working light over there, still it's gonna be pretty busy there.
I agree.
People are gonna just stay at home. No traffic.
So are there any other questions or comments?
I guess I have just one final one. If we're interested, I mean, we're certainly interested in obtaining a bypass mitigation grant from VTrans. Is that something that we need to reach out to Jim Cota for, or does that go through you? Or what does that process look like for obtaining that?
Yeah, so Rob Young is going to be the design project manager, and that would be worked out through Rob Young, I believe.
Yeah, so we would just work with you folks once we have a contractor on board and we know the project is you know, financed and it's good to go. It's really a process that I would initiate, and you know, I'll just get that going. once we have a contractor.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll have another meeting. I mean, this is kind of like the first meeting, but we'll have another meeting, once we have all the final plans, before we advertise this out. So folks can look at all the details of the plans, and, we'll have the, local bypass could come up again by that point. It probably would be out of this will be like a year before construction. So you'll have time to discuss it before then.
Laura, I just got a quick point, Laura and Rob. So we did a project and we ended up with a local route, a little bit towards St. Albans, and the traffic on the project tended to drive pretty fast. It got pretty dusty. So this grant is pretty worthy. Would it be helpful if or do you realize they're going to have sheriffs out there patrolling at some point to control the speed of traffic that doesn't normally hit that road and the dust control? You guys already have that cost.
Enforcement.
Yep, that's all part of that grant.
Okay.
It takes into consideration dust control costs. It can be used towards enforcement. Exactly. Yep.
Great.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, they might even put up some signs if they wanted to, right? Like local traffic only to kind of deter. Probably their biggest challenge is going to be all the firms right there trying to figure out how to get around for those few weeks.
Yeah, so again, that's that timing thing. The closure can happen right after that first cut, and
Yep. Glad you're here though. Glad we're going to get that bridge replaced.
Needs it.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, thank you.
Any final questions for Laura? Not seeing any. Well, thank you all for your time, Laura, and Rob and Jim and folks that came out for this presentation. We really appreciate it.
Laura has to thank you about it.
Yes, I can reclaim here. I'm now the host. I'm going to mute all.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So without anything further, we'll move on to the last little public information hearing. I will turn this over to Emily.
Sure. Hi, and I believe Julie from the community center is here as well. Julie, do you want to give the brief overview of the project?
Oh, hang on, I have to.
Okay, thank you. We were made aware of COVID or CARES funding through Vermont Community Development Project or program. The Fairfield Community Center was made aware of funds, and we have a project which we hope will help us serve the people in need more. And it is building a pavilion. We're calling it a pavilion. So it's a structure behind the garden beds to the west of the community center on the green space. It would be a post and beam structure, roofed and on a slab. And so Emily's been helping us put together an application for this project. And we see that it would benefit our youth programs, our food shelf, and our senior meals, and have other uses after COVID passes, particularly for community events. Run for Chet, the setup for that would be so much easier if there was a structure there for the rec department to set up in. So that's sort of an overview of what we're proposing. And Emily maybe can talk about kind of the grant and all the requirements of it.
Yeah, hi. So the grant is a VCDP, Vermont Community Development Program, which is part of the Agency of Commerce Community Development. And it's specific money that they set aside for Coronavirus Assistance and Relief Fund. So unlike a normal project with them, there's no grant match. So it's 100% grant. And it's designed for projects that help respond to or recover from COVID. So this project would help the community center deal with the COVID restrictions by allowing them to have a structure that they can actually use to host their programs and to host their senior meals safely as we move into the summer. And we're still kind of waiting for some of the restrictions to lift up as we get people vaccinated. So it's a great opportunity for the town because it's 100% grant match. But it would be the town applying. So the way the structure of the program works is that the town applies, and we're not sure, getting clarification from VCDP if it would be the community center would be an official sub-grantee, or if the community center would just be kind of like a community partner, but not in that official sub-grantee role.
And what do we need from this hearing today, Emily?
Yeah, so I think what we need from the hearing today is the select board approving moving forward with applying for the grant. And also, Jonathan, I believe I sent you the letter, the municipal letter, which essentially states that the project is conforming with the goals of the regional plan. I think it's important to note that our budget estimate is still a rough estimate, and we're working on getting more detail. There's a possibility that if that number comes in at 10% higher than this, that the select board will have to reapprove that budget number. But again, there's no grant match for this, so that doesn't have any effect on like the town's funds.
So are there questions from the select board or anyone on this call or Zoom?
Dave or Jean, Tom stepped away for a minute. So it's the two of you. Or Charlie.
No, I don't have any more questions. I think between Emily and Julie, they did a good job presenting and making it clear what they're asking for. I actually don't have any questions.
Yeah, keep us in the loop. Let us know how it's going. I mean,
well, you need us tonight to approve this, Emily?
Yeah, so to approve moving forward with applying and to approve signing the municipal letter of conformance.
Okay. Okay.
Great. Well, we'll keep you informed as we go along. There's a lot of details still to work out, but.
Emily, do you need a motion in the minutes, or what do you need for a formal approval?
Yeah, motion in the minutes would be good. Just motion to approve and to sign the letter.
You have the letter in front of you, Jonathan?
I do not. I did not get a chance to print it out today, but I can print. The folks have to come in and sign warrants anyways, so I can have it printed and ready when folks come in.
Okay.
Great.
I guess I'd just like to see the letter before I make a motion or approve anything. So,
Emily, if I give you permission, do you have it with you?
Yes, I can pull it up on share screen.
Okay, I made you the host.
All right, great. Let me get that up here. Let me open it up in my computer.
We had some people trying to come in and fish our thing, so you might have to watch that.
Okay. Yes, I will pay attention to see if there's anything. Yeah, I know there can be some issues sometimes with Zoom.
That was crazy. That was crazy.
I didn't know what it was.
I didn't. That was crazy.
Yeah, so this is the draft letter. It states a brief description of the project, which is the pavilion to help with the community center programming. And then it states that it's consistent with the plan. And these are several of the priorities and goals and policies that are in the newly adopted plan that kind of match with the project. So all it is essentially stating the project. The VCDP wants to make sure your project isn't going against your town plan.
Short and sweet and straight to the point. I love it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not very controversial, I don't think.
No, I can agree with you 100% there. 100%. That's good enough for me.
that a motion, Charlie?
I want to wait for Dave to read it first.
Oh, let me pull it back up.
Once Dave says he's read it and is okay with it, I'll make a motion.
Emily,
Dave says it looks good to him, so I would make a motion to accept this and move forward.
what was that, Tom?
Can you make it bigger?
I cannot. Emily, can you unmute Dave Parsons?
Oh, yes. Sorry. I forgot I was in charge. Okay. I just clicked ask to unmute.
It didn't take me that long to read it. I'll second your motion, Charlie. That looks good to me.
Yeah, it looks good. Thank you.
Great.
Put it to a vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Well, thank you, Emily and Julie, and let me know. I'll get the letter printed out and ready for the select board to sign, and as soon as it's signed, I'll get it returned to you both.
Okay. Thanks for fitting
Thank
us
you.
in.
Yeah. Thanks for fitting us in.
Bye, Emily. Bye, Julie. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Jonathan, you probably need to, yeah, there you go.
Yep, thank you. Tom, back to the regular agenda. I didn't have any other items. It was just reports and approval of minutes and warrant.
You gentlemen? Thank you.
I see Dave unmuted. Let's see, Jean's unmuted. I don't think they heard you, Tom. I don't know if they did. Can you guys?
Yeah, you were froze up for a minute, Tom.
Yeah, the internet kind of struck out for a second.
We need approval or comments on the February 8th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
And nobody knows the generator at the town garage, right? That's still, we're still waiting for that, right?
Yes, we're looking at an April 1st.
So it's not really parts we're waiting for. We're just waiting for a whole new generator, right?
I think well, they're building the generator. So I haven't heard any more from Johnson Hardware regarding that.
Any other comments, or everybody ready to approve it?
I'm ready to approve, Tom.
So we need a motion.
They did.
They did.
I'll make it.
Okay. All those of the February 8th meeting?
All right.
How about February 12th?
That was the special, right?
That was the 3 o'clock meeting.
I did that. Let me look at that real quick.
Yeah. I think it went pretty well considering.
It died and then it came back. Oh, that's over there.
Yeah, froze.
That's what it was. It froze. Because it died and then it came back.
Were you able to read them, Charlie?
Yep. Yep. Looks good to me.
We need a motion to approve them.
I will make that motion.
Second.
Dave's muted. One message.
I don't know if that's Jonathan or Melissa, but
Dave said yes.
I will second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I guess I only have one comment. Out of those minutes, the conversation that was supposed to happen has not taken place yet.
Correct.
So I don't know if there's a time that we want to reschedule. I have processed one payroll based on the minutes that you just approved. And I haven't had any comments regarding it yet, but I'm sure I will. So I don't know when we would like to do that, probably sooner rather than later.
I believe, just let me know, but I think Tom or Gavin should be present as well.
I agree with that. I don't either. Charlie or I is fine, but I would like to see Tom or Gavin as well.
So Tom, I know Gavin's like home quarantining. Is there a time that works better for you? Tomorrow morning? Not tomorrow, Wednesday?
Wednesday we got 2 minutes.
Or Thursday?
Possibly.
Okay. No, it's fine.
Yeah.
I just,
it's going to be dependent on the weather too.
It is. I agree. We probably shouldn't let it drag out too long.
Right.
Agreed.
It probably should be you, Charlie, because I'm probably going into a quarantine as well.
Yeah, I'll be back from work Wednesday evening, first thing Thursday, I believe. I'm not quite certain yet, but I should be available towards the end of the week.
Okay.
Tuesday, Wednesday, snow, Thursday, and Friday, sun.
Okay. So
It's
Thursday.
going to snow for the end of time.
So tentatively, Thursday or Friday?
Yes, sir.
All right.
So I guess you got a report?
The only thing that I have to report on, and I think I mentioned this to Gene this morning, so VTrans has issued their town highway structures program and their class 2 town highway paving program. We have 5 class 2 town highways in Fairfield: North Road, South Road, Buck Hollow, Pond, Sheldon Woods,
Swamp.
and Swamp up until St. Pierre. So certainly, those are due the first 2 weeks in April. So between now and the next couple of weeks, and I've already mentioned this to Mo as well, let's start thinking of which one of those roads we should put in an application for, as well as the structures program. We used the last structures program that we applied for was 2018. And we actually just did the construction this summer for the culvert on South Road. So, what is the next structure in Fairfield that we think needs addressing? The grant is only about $200,000, so it can't be a substantial project, but certainly something that we might like to address. Again, no decision has to be made tonight, but I would just encourage the select board to think about this in the next month or so.
10-4.
Can you put that on an agenda and we talk to Mo about condition of
said roads,
verts and whatnot in those areas?
Yes, I will add it to the next agenda. That's all I have in my report, Tom.
No more, so
No Mo.
we can't really approve the warrants because they're not.
Correct. So we have a payroll warrant and an AP warrant here. I don't know, Tom's the only one here in person, so how we want to go about doing the warrants. Thoughts from the select board?
Say that again, Jonathan, please.
I think, if I remember before, that there can be a conditional approval,
Okay, and then they'll just come
and then
review
they come
them.
and look at them,
Okay,
and then it has to be ratified at the next
the
meeting.
next meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's how it works.
Yeah, we have warrants here, and Tom's the only one here in person.
Okay.
So how, what's the best way to go about approving these? And Melissa had just mentioned conditionally approving them tonight, but have each select board member come in and review, and then ratifying that at the next meeting.
Okay. That works for me.
Gene looks like his microphone disappeared, so I can't unmute.
He's probably that one, 933.
This 933?
Yeah. Okay.
So do you need a motion to conditionally approve the warrants?
Yes, both the payroll and the accounts payable.
Okay, since we can't all be there, let's make a motion to conditionally approve them, and we'll review them when we come in to sign them this week. And
Oh, no, 589635, the other one.
Give that a try, Gene.
Charlie, you gonna second that?
Stop.
I'll second.
Can you hear me now? Wait, let's start the meeting over.
Gene, did you have a comment?
No, I'm good.
So all those in favor of doing it as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Unless anyone else has anything.
Any other comments from you guys or questions?
no, I think I've had enough.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Sure.
Adjourn.
We're done? Oh, woo! Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Motion by Tom to adjourn.
I'll second Tom's motion.
Okay.
Got it.
Good night, everyone.
Hi, guys. Thank you.